looks like a pop-up. It's annoying. It looks probably like an ad, you know. And to make it worse, the borders are shortened and the information is just too much. Things are cluttered here. So that was one thing. The second thing was like people in casual games have been observed like, you know, they are more interested in challenging friends rather than complete strangers. But the point is that you cannot really ignore this part because like most of the users, actually maximum of your users will not be logged in via Facebook, right? And what you need to do is also concentrate here. You cannot really neglect this. The other thing being here is like, it's a good chance that, you know, some of your, like most of your Facebook friends are not on SongQuest. So you don't really want to be those spammer guys here and say, okay, I'm just sending out challenges to everyone on Facebook and people just do boo. That is one thing. And on the right, on the last part, I would like to point out that, you know, because of the right-hand bias, the skip button is just so easily accessible that the user thinks, okay, let's just skip it. It's so easy. So based on these ideas, right, we kind of sat down, thought what changes we need to bring up, and we kind of revamped our UI. So this is how the new, improved, and the better, supposedly, the UI looked like. So we'll just try to answer the questions we raised for ourselves in the previous slide. I'm pretty sure you figured it out yourselves because it's a very, very simple thing, but yet it demands some attention. So the first thing here on the design element is that you see here that from a pop-up, it has grown to a full screen mode. This is something, first of all, the data or the information that you're conveying is less cluttered here. And the second thing is that this is something that not only demands now, but also commands attention. It's something hard to ignore. The other point is that for the random strangers you can challenge, we tried to add some context to them. We tried to make them less strange. So if you have a look at these, you know, small green little bubbles here, they actually kind of represent the mastery levels of these specific players in that particular album. So what this kind of does is, you know, it adds that competitive feeling and, you know, kind of motivates or drives the user to send challenges to them. And more so, like, you can just think, okay, the guy on the right, like Vishal in this case, has a high mastery in this album. So you're like, oh, this guy's really good. I want to compete against him. The guy on the left is Amar, and you're just sick and tired of losing, right? And you feel, okay, this is the guy I can win against. Let's challenge him. So that's the deal we did there. We added the context here. We made them less strange. With your Facebook friends, we kind of added these small little badges here, SQ badges here, which kind of represent that out of all your friends, these are particular people who are actually also playing SongQuest. You feel more comfortable and you're aware. And last but not the least, coming to the buttons, these buttons are swapped, and quite literally the send challenges button outshines the skip button. So this is what we kind of, you know, went ahead and did the revamp like, but we got to back this up with numbers that this really worked. So let's see what happened to our funnel now. So I'll just take you through the boring part again. The player loads the album, not much change here. Then you go ahead and you play 5 questions, not much change here, not much drop there. You see your report card, you're happy or sad. And then you see that 15% more people are sending challenges now. Now that is a great number, that is a good number, that is good improvement. But the point is that it is more emphatic than how good this number looks. Because if you go back to the MFA screen, if you just paid attention, right? Sorry for this. Yeah, so each instance of MFA screen gives you a chance of sending at least 6 challenges. So that means basically that any change, you know, of X amount in the MFA screen will result 6x times a change in the number of challenges that are being pushed out in the ecosystem of SongQuest. So that is the thing there. Now, that was simple, but the deal is that you really need to track every event inside your app. You really need to capture all the steps so that you exactly know where the drop-offs are happening. Because you might be totally, you know, addressing some problem that is not even there. Like for example, you say, okay, maybe I need to optimize my network calls, so I should work on here. But you see that the problem really does not lie here. It's just with your UI, this side, right? So and as you know that, you know, design is something that is definitely iterative. You cannot get it right the first time. It's not something definitive. So that's from the funnel side, you know, the tracking of event side. Now that you have fixed the leaking bucket problem, we stand at a junction where you really want, you've worked really hard and you want to showcase and boast your product to people. It's time to scale up things. It's time to market things here. So this story in particular is again from SongQuest and is a tale of two ad networks, A and B. So we had a bunch of ad network agencies. We were conducting our test marketing we were conducting with them. And what happened was, like, these were the two ad networks that really caught our attention, because these were the ones which actually showed a promising thing that they can deliver volumes we wanted. And from the money side, business means money, they actually gave us roughly the acceptable CPDs, which were to the tune of like the same figure for both of them. So we sat with the marketing guy and we started, discussing like, okay, what should we do? Should we just split the marketing budget between these two guys equally, 1:1? Or some guy was just saying, okay, A's name is better, I like him, so let's go with them. But then what's the whole point of capturing everything? By capturing everything, I want to talk about counters that you put inside your game so that you can track everything inside your game. So what we did was, we went ahead, we took out our binoculars, we spied these users who were coming from sources A and sources B, and we found out something interesting. And like, we will bring you some interesting numbers here. This first graph talks about retention. Retention basically means that, like, the percentage of people who are coming back to your app on the subsequent days, and D0 being the day of installation. As you can clearly see, the users coming from this ad network B have been coming back to the app more in terms of the share percentages, right? So that is one thing. So the score up till now is like 0-1 in favor of B. The other graph, it talks about engagement. It's like how much people are playing. So GPU basically means games played by the user, games per user. So you can ignore those entangled lines. They really don't bring out much value here. But what I want you guys to do is that just concentrate on these dashed lines here. So again, if you just watch out for the legends, you can see the average games played per user for the ad network B is much higher. So that is a good news for us, and so is for the ad network B, because we'll select them, we'll invest more money with them. So that is one thing. But since the example is from SongQuest, we definitely would want to look into challenges. And this graph talks about the distribution of challenges sent by these users. And you can clearly see that, again, B dominates. The score has turned 0 and 3. So not only people from this ad network B, are coming back to the app, they're playing more, they're more engaged, they're also propagating the game more. So that was really good news for us. And like without a doubt, the clear winner was like ad network B for us. But the whole point here is that, it's very essential to track what is happening to your app, what is happening to your user, how they're experiencing things by means of things like funnels or counters. And the whole point of having your own analytics and stats system is that you can track everything. It's basically that the freedom it gives you, right? It's like, I want to capture X thing, I want to capture that, and you can just do that. Because, and the most important thing is that since you are the one who is logging the data, there is no miscommunication. Like, how should I interpret these numbers? What does a session duration account for? And stuff like that. So this was like about it. And, sorry. So, okay, so again we come to this slide, and we are sorry to bore you guys with this particular slide time and again. So we have been measuring things, and you go ahead, analyze things, and you iterate, and you come up with a beautiful product, right? But running a live product is a different task altogether. It's not the same cup of tea. Actually, I would like to go one step back and say, like, all this time we are talking about data as like something we can track, something we capture, but data is something more fundamental. Data can be something that you push inside your app as an update, like a content. Data could also be the notifications you send to your users, like just interacting them, greeting them, wanting them to come back. Or data could also be something you cannot even capture, like the ratings and the comments people give on the blogs or the Google Play Store for your app. Right. So what does it take extra to run an app successfully, right? So I think there is definitely one element that is missing here. So what is it? Definitely not a comic strip, but I wanted to bring out this idea in a very interesting way. So this comic strip has basically two parts to it. The first part here is like, you see the product manager here. He's totally worried about the numbers. He's dreaming about certain numbers. These are the retention numbers I want to hit. These are the engagement numbers I want to hit. These are the revenue numbers I want to hit. And he totally, runs towards his developer or engineer who is like dreaming a code, who is probably working on something breathtaking. And then you see that the poor guy is working day and night, and he's like super pissed by the time it's midnight. But however, in a parallel universe, maybe in a different planet, the story is a little different. The guy is thinking about numbers, the product manager. He runs up to his developer, and you can see both guys are doing minding their own business, and they're working in the daylight. And they're super happy. So why were these guys happy? What's the reason for that? So that's the answer, actually. So these guys actually sat down, and they made a stupid, ugly-looking tool. But this tool, mind you, is very, very useful, and it's super cool. So let's see what this tool can do for us. For example, the first tab here is about pushing the content on the fly to the game. In context to Song Quest, you have premium albums, you have album of the day. So you can just put some filters there. You can select the language, you can select the eras, you can plug in the song IDs, and you can get a fresh new album. And this process is very important to retain the customers, to keep them engaged, because you don't want them to see the content, time again, the same content there. And we can also decide the pricing in terms of in-game currency there. The next tab up there is notifications. You need a constant interaction with your customers. And these notifications can be highly targeted. Like, let's say if there is a user sitting out there and he's not come back to our app for months, we will just say, hey, we are missing you, please come back. I know it sounds cheesy, but it works. And you can just customize the text and all that stuff also. The third set of tabs, I'll just club them together. It's configuration and stats. So these are more game-specific things. Like in case of Song Quest, you would want to know the ratio of correct answers people are giving to incorrect answers people are giving. This will, in some way, give you an idea like how difficult the trivia sets are getting or how easier they're getting. This kind of, you need to strike that fine-tuned balance here. So this is something you would really want to monitor. So what does this help us with? This helps you run the game, run the show all by yourself with minimum engineering support. And once you are in a startup, right, like us, you are a small family, you have a crunch of money, you have a crunch of time, you have a crunch of engineering resources. And if you automate things, especially things that will really, keep your app healthy and things that are recurring, you can use all the time saved by working on different projects. Maybe your engineer could be working on something that is a new game that is coming up. You yourself can work on a game that is to come up. So that's about it. To sum it up, basically, what we want to say is that why numbers matter is that, first of all, for surprise and crisis. Whenever a surprise comes, you are always surprised. But the idea is to be ready for it. And the second thing is that at some point of time, you need to bring in objectivity. So, okay, we talked about MFA screen, right? So if you take around in this room to 5 people, they'll give you 5 different answers and opinions. But how do you bring in objectivity? You bring objectivity via numbers. Like Shakira said, the hips don't lie, numbers don't lie either. Okay, so that's about it. So basically, to track everything, you should definitely leverage external tools. You should set up an in-house analytics system, stat system which is fairly robust and you're confident upon. And you should definitely, look forward to automate things to make life easier for everyone. So on that note, that's all we had, and I hope you really enjoyed this date. We tried to make this interesting because this was the last session, perhaps, for this NASSCOM GDC conference, and we'll more than welcome any questions you have for us. Thank you.
Hello. Yeah, so we're open to questions.
Not sure if excited or worried. Too many hands.
Hi, my name is Saurabh. You mentioned that you were able to track which users are coming from which ad network.
Correct.
And this is on the Google Play Store, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So what tool did you use to track this?
So the games are on the Google Play Store, and even if it's on the iOS Store as well, what you can use is there are a bunch of tools out there. What we found we were comfortable with was Google Analytics. There are a lot of trackers out there which help you do the same thing. Be sure to Google it up, see if there are other tools which suit your capabilities. But yeah, we were comfortable with Google Analytics as the tool for this. So, sure.
Analytics is able to tell you which...
Could you use the mic, please?
Yeah, is it able to tell you which ad network is it coming from, the install?
Yes, so the way it works, I'll just go over this very quickly, is that you give each ad network a URL, the Play Store URL, with the tag on it. So I get URL plus A, URL plus B. So A for the ad network A, B for B. And that's how you sort of differentiate between them.
Great, thanks.
Hi, over here.
Hey, yeah.
I got 3 questions for
Sure.
you. The first one is why only 2 ad networks? So you optimize between.
So the straight answer to this question is that I mentioned that there were a bunch of ad network agencies we were working with, but these 2 specific ad networks were really showing promising signs for us. They were able to deliver volumes and they were giving us cost-effective CPDs, that is cost per download. So it's not like we stuck to these 2 ad networks. There were a bunch of other ad networks that were working. Just as a use case to present, we kind of mentioned these 2 specifically.
Okay, so you did go through a bunch
definitely
and
yes.
then pare it down.
Yeah.
Okay. Second question is, for your analytics in your game,
Right.
You can track every single event. But you are only one guy and you only have so much time. So how did you prioritize which events caught your attention? Or
So what we started off with is by making a list of every event in the game which could be used. Start off in a basic Excel sheet, put down a list of all these events, counters, so on and so forth. And then what we did is we sort of went through them and figured out how many of these are actually relevant to the game. Because you don't want to be bombarding the servers with too many counters at the same time, right? You want to make sure that because the other problem is if a game is offline, then the data is sent out only when the user goes online the next time. And if you have too many counters being logged, that could create a problem. So what we did is we made a big list of all the counters and events which are important. Then we skimmed through them very quickly, saw what was important, marked those, and got those onto the stats.
See, what I think really matters here are good practices. There are certain metrics that you need to really track, like DAUs, D1 retention, in SongQuest specifically correct to incorrect ratio. These are very indicative numbers. These will actually hint, or give you the right direction what questions to ask. So I think if you are on a daily basis looking at these numbers, which we do very religiously, will point you out exactly where you need to deep dive. So I guess that kind of answers.
so that was on like a daily basis. You guys look at these numbers.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Okay.
So you kind of that is where automation comes into picture. So we just click a button, and in our emails we have this report ready. Yeah.
Okay. Sorry, last question.
Sure.
This is more just for my own interest. The first graph that you showed us for Shiva,
Right.
On the second day, you guys got noticed and got reviews and stuff.
Right.
What were the actual numbers in terms of installs over there, and how do you think that you got those reviews, or why you attracted that attention?
So I'm not really sure if I can share those actual numbers with you, but the reviews. So what we did was we had a bunch of friends who were bloggers, who were app reviewers. So we approached them first. Okay. At the same time, the game was getting a little popular, so people were sort of looking into it, and they happened to discover our app at that time. So mostly because we sort of put the word of mouth out, this is the game, try it out, see how you think, what you think about it. So that was how it is. The actual numbers, I'm really sorry, I can't share with you.
No problem.
I have a question also.
Sure, go on.
Have you ever have your update cycles ever been very close to each other, and has that ever led to a drop in your DAUs?
This has actually, the thing is we try to avoid our updates as much as possible. But there are cases when we actually bring out an update and then we see this very weird case where the game suddenly crashes. And you have to fix that immediately, otherwise it's very, very bad experience for the users. So in those very rare cases, we have had times when we've pushed out 2 updates in a very, very small time period. But yeah, we try to avoid that as much as possible. Right. And that does create a problem in terms of DAUs and updates.
So see, what happens is like you can do as much net practice as you want, but the real test is in the play field. So I guess even like series of really robust sessions, sometimes things break when you really go to the Play Store, and that's when in such crisis cases we actually need to push an update in a very small interval of time. But that is highly not recommended. You should put up neatly one package and push it out.
That's the ideal case.
Hello. So I have a query about Lean Plum.
Yeah,
so,
sure.
What if the internet is not working on user's phone? So you put some numbers, you run some test, and the end user doesn't have internet at that moment. So does it stick to the old values or what?
So yeah, the way this works is, again, we work with a bunch of online and offline games. And for the offline game scenario, it's a little tricky. So the way Lean Plum works is, let's say I made a change in the variables. I tweak, let's say, the number of coins given. I make it 2 times now. So if the guy is not online, he will be seeing the old values. But the moment he comes online, Lean Plum automatically updates the values, and he can see the thing from the next run or run cycle or so forth. So that is precisely why you don't want to push too many items and events onto Lean because every time the app opens is when Lean updates the numbers and these metrics and so on and so forth. So you have to be a little careful while using Lean purely because of this reason. So that's it. Yeah.
Hi. I've played both of your games and I really like them. What I wanted to ask was how successful were the in-app purchases for both of them, Shiva and Song Quest?
Okay, so right now the deal is that we really want to focus on making games that have high retention numbers and high engagement, because eventually that is something that will translate into money. Exact numbers, we have been making some amount of money, but the exact numbers definitely we cannot share with you because we are not at a liberty for that. But our initial focus is not talking about money, it's about making engaging games people come back to, people talk about, and like as you said, you like our games, that feels really nice.
Yeah, so it's more about getting that brand recall of sorts, that Tiny Mogul Games makes these good games. And once we get to the level where we're comfortable and we have that image in the market, then we can think about going aggressively into monetization. Right now we are experimenting, we're trying different things out, but yeah, really that is not a focus as such right now.
And as far as payments are concerned, you might have been hearing about things like carrier billing and stuff. So yeah, we are waiting it to show up and probably.
Yeah, so about carrier billing, I read an article that this is the first game which runs in-app purchases. I mean, users can purchase in-app purchases using carrier billing. So is it implemented? And if so, how's the response?
So we have, what we are doing right now is we have both our games on the Airtel Live Store as well. Okay. And over there we have begun integrating carrier billing. So we are seeing promising results. We really haven't pushed it too aggressively yet. But as I said, we're just experimenting, trying to figure out what works in the Indian market and what doesn't.
So for the build which is on Google Play Market, you cannot put in-app purchase using carrier
Yes, sir,
billing.
you're correct.
Anyone else?
Any more questions?
I guess we're it. That's it.
I think that's about it. We'll not hold you guys here. And we would definitely want to say a special thanks to the entire NASCOM team for first of all giving us this opportunity and conducting this huge event. And I guess Aditya also has to say certain words, definitely.
And yeah, in case you have any doubts or further questions, please feel free to meet us around. We'll be walking around the hotel, so yeah. Or you can email us. I think our email IDs are gone. But yeah.